Hi, everyone. It's Coach Tresa. And today we're going to talk about mentorship and what a journey that can be, either from the perspective of being a mentor or being a mentee. So, I want to introduce a friend of mine, Michelle Kaplan. She has over 30 years of HR experience, and most recently, she was vice president of HR for a mid-sized manufacturing company. And the cool thing about Michelle is she's also a poet, author of two poetry books, mother of a beautiful daughter who's just about to graduate from high school. And she has had a lot of experience about mentorship. So when we talked about Lindsay and I doing this topic, I knew exactly who I wanted to get the expertise from. So welcome, Michelle. Thanks for being with me today. And
Thank you.
when you and I started talking about doing this, I started thinking back to my mentors because both of us have had long careers, and we have worked with a lot of wonderful people who made a big difference in the arc of our careers, what we chose along the way, and so on. So I want to hear about your one of your first mentors. But one of I really think she was my first mentor. Her name was Dolores when I first got into the brokerage business. And we were working for a mid-sized brokerage firm. And she taught me all about municipal bonds and how to be a salesman and how to talk to people and figure out what was really important to them. The great thing about Dolores was she had that mentor mindset. And you don't always get that with your bosses. She was my boss at the time. So tell me about one of your early mentors and what that person meant to you.
Yeah, I mean, my first boss was really supportive, but I never really considered her as a mentor,
Mm.
right? And we know the difference of that, where I'll explain where, like, your boss holds you accountable, gives you things to do. The mentors really kind of take it to a whole other level where it's kind of like, they're your advocate, you can ask for support or advice.
Mhm.
And you just feel like it isn't self-serving. It's like they're really trying to help you through, your career to progress
But there
as
was
you
this one
want.
woman, Lisa, that just really took me under her wing,
Mm.
showed me the ropes. The biggest feedback I got, the thing that I remember the most all these years later, was the fact that I wasn't speaking up because I was slightly intimidated by the group. I'm like, well, they're the experts or they have more experience. So what do I have to offer? And we had a break. So we had this whole discussion on this project team, and we went out on break, and we were in the bathroom, and she's like, Michelle, you need to speak up. I could tell on your face that you want to say something, which is true. I don't have a poker face, but you're not saying anything. And if you don't speak up, they're not going to ask you back, right? It's like she's giving me that permission. Sometimes you need to hear that.
Yeah.
And she was right. I did have something to say. So when we got back, somebody was summing up what we just discussed, and I said, like, you raise your hand, like I have something to say. And I still think of her to this day. Like, I don't necessarily have to be the first person to speak up, but if I have something to say, to really say it. That's the beauty of a
So
mentor.
important. So
Yeah.
when you think about your mentors, what are some of the aspects about a good mentor that someone who was looking for a mentor might want to think about? What are some of the best parts of being a mentor?
Yeah. So, I mean, it all really comes down to trust, right? It's somebody that if you can take, some critical or constructive feedback and not, and know the intentions of it. A great mentor is someone who's your advocate, someone who kind of tells you what happens behind the scenes that you don't necessarily have that sense of it. And I think the ultimate thing for when you're looking for a mentor is someone who is different than a boss. It could be a boss, but what they really bring is that visibility. I mean,
Mm.
there's so many hardworking people that I've met through my career that nobody even knows about,
Yeah.
right? So it's like you don't have to be super loud or really, some people don't are the most extroverted. So it's like a mentor will help at least you, if you're not that type of person, introduce you to the people that you need to meet.
Yes.
that will help you through your career, or at least maybe it's the next step. As well as kind of setting you up of like, a lot of times when I mentor people, I might not be the best person to answer your question, but I will make sure that I introduce you to I know the person, and
Right.
I take the initiative to introduce, I
Mhm.
set it up. So it's like, here, and even if it's just like a one-time meeting, but just making sure if you don't have the answers or information that you're providing it, and then
Mhm.
there's no risk, right? I don't
Mhm.
write your performance reviews. I'm not giving you any, merit increases. I'm
Mm.
just
Mm.
there to help support you and be your advocate.
That seems like something to really think about is if if you want a mentor that is not your boss, which it's become more formalized now, I think, than it was when I was in the beginning of my career. There's mentorship programs, and the big corporations actually have a lot of this structured out now so that you could
Yes.
kind of choose into it, get on board, and there's lots of people to help you figure out how to get to where you want to be in your career. But if you're a person who wants to find a mentor, there's some obligations that you have, right? As a mentee, what are some of those obligations that you want to make sure to make the relationship
Yeah.
really productive for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've set up several mentor mentee programs. Whether it was large Fortune 500 companies or small to mid-sized companies, and really, we definitely define what the roles and responsibilities are.
Yeah.
One key thing is that we definitely put a time limit, so it's no more than 1 year.
Mm.
And to your question, it's the mentee's responsibility to set up the meetings.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, right. So they're usually voluntary programs, right? So it's not like we're making you get a mentor, or we're making you mentor somebody, right? So it's like people volunteer. But once you volunteer, then typically the mentee, the one who's being mentored, will set up the first meeting, and you decide how often can you meet. I mean,
Mhm.
some of these mentors, like, they travel, they're super busy in their jobs. So
Mhm.
I always say, if you can meet once a month, that's great, but at least as a minimum once a quarter. So at
Mhm.
least 4 times throughout the year, you're touching base. And that would then determine, are you getting a mentor? Do you want somebody who has that industry or your functional expertise in your
Mhm.
job?
Mhm.
Or are you looking for somebody, because that could be somebody outside the company,
Right.
or it could be, what I need to start networking within my company. And
Right.
so you kind of working that. The mentor's responsibility is that you really have to honor those meetings unless there's some crazy
Yeah.
emergency, to really
Yes.
hold those meetings and to offer that advice. So if they aren't happening, then, within a couple of months, like, they're typically out of the program. And they actually are very successful because, when you formalize it after the year, you can still continue on an informal basis if you connect
Sure.
with that person to continue. But we usually have such a demand for people wanting to be mentored. We don't have enough mentors to say.
Yeah.
So we kind of change it from, it's voluntary and it's optional. It's a great way to start if you're setting up one for your company. But then it became like very quickly a recognition, like, who are the ones that are your high performers
Mhm.
or your high potentials,
Mhm.
that you want to move up. And then, it was almost seen like as a reward and recognition. Then you could be part of this mentor program, which is
Aha.
really well received. And who doesn't want to mentor somebody who's like an up and coming achiever? Like,
Well, I
it's
think
very
that's
mutually beneficial.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was just thinking that, many folks that are new in a career might make an assumption that people don't want to do it, that they're asking for something that it is kind of a burden. But in actuality, just like anybody likes to be asked for help. It's flattering in one way, and also as a more senior person, I know I really want to give away the wisdom that I have. I really want to help younger people, move up in their career and in their life, and just generally develop as a person as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I
So
mean, who doesn't want to help somebody make their dreams come true? And then
Right.
it does give you purpose, and it's, part of your
It
legacy, when you
seriously.
look
So
back
what would
on.
be one piece of advice that you have for a mentor who decides to, play that role in somebody's life?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm just going to expand on what you said. It's like showing up for the person.
Yeah.
And one way to do that that's really critical is that just make sure if you're giving constructive feedback or you're listening, right? It's like, you know, to you as the mentor might be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I asked this question, or it's so basic, but it's really like keep someone's ego intact. Like, because for me, the greatest gift a mentor gives to a mentee is raising their confidence. A lot of times these people I've mentored are super capable. They're very able to do it, but they don't know it. And I think as a mentor, you can help people see um, their potential. Like you see the potential in somebody and what they're capable of doing, you believe in them, you need to share that with them. And if you're if you're mentoring someone that you don't see that, then it's probably not a good fit, or that person,
Yeah.
that I would have that mentee more in a coaching type of
Yeah.
support than necessarily a mentor. These should be people that pick it up. But yeah, a lot of times it's just they're super motivated and they're capable, but they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And a
That's
mentor can
excellent.
really help it. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent piece of advice. So let's flip it the other way. What is the one piece of advice that you would give a person new in their career who realizes that having a mentor could make a big difference to them? So what's one piece of advice you would have for that person?
I really, it's advice, but it's like sometimes you don't really get it until you go through it. But to take this relationship quite seriously,
Mhm.
it's like to really appreciate that someone is really busy
Mhm.
and on top of their game as a mentor, to make sure that you set up the meetings, that you show up, you
Mhm.
come prepared with the
Mhm.
questions, the scenarios you want to talk about. I mean, it is your meeting, right? As the mentee, like so the mentor will help, but you really need to show up and really appreciate the time and energy that they're putting into you. I mean, my one regret, I wish I did more of this when I was younger,
Yeah.
was to initiate that,
Mhm.
because I don't think when I was younger, well, I know I didn't know it till I was much older, that how important and critical the relationships you build within your company and then outside your company, in your area that you work in, how critical they are to your career. Yeah.
Yes, and the point that I think is really critical here is that you don't know when you're going to run into that person again later in your career. So
Oh, yes.
definitely don't burn any bridges, which is, I guess,
Absolutely.
mentors or not, that is great advice in life.
Oh
Don't,
my gosh, it's so true. Companies get bought out, and all of a sudden you're working with the person that you
yeah,
told.
yeah, yeah.
It is. It's what, it's a small world and it's getting smaller and smaller. Mentoring.
Yes.
If I have a great interaction with somebody, I'll send an email to the person that I mentored and
Mhm.
then copy their boss.
Right.
Right. Like, oh my God, it was a great year. You really took it seriously. I think you shined, to your point, blah, blah, blah. And then they have that, and it's coming from someone outside the team who's
See,
also
I'm glad we've
recognizing.
got this on tape because this is an important. This could make all the difference in an interview situation or when you're moving to another company, that kind of thing. To have that in your folder of your as you're building your career credentials.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And a mentor can even be like, a reference, if you're
yeah,
looking, and those types of things. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I think I have it's like I print it out, but it's like in a manila folder somewhere
yeah,
where some of those letters or the emails, I
yeah.
just kind of throw it in there. So it's like you can look back and be like, oh my gosh, remember when I did that? So
I
it
know
is.
that that's also very nice, isn't it, to look back and remember
Yeah.
who you used to be and then notice who you are now, which can feel very affirming and confidence building. So
Yeah.
thank you, Michelle. What we will do is there's a handout on the link below, and you can download that with some tips about being a mentor or mentee. I'm also going to list Michelle's poetry website. So if you're into poetry, she writes every single day, and the poems are very inspiring, very thought-provoking. So I'll add her website as well. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.